Hello, everybody, and I hope everyone is well. This is No Soundbites Allowed, and I am your host, Michael Voss, Dragon of the Southern Tier. And it looks like the system is having a few problems here. We're going live, and I'm not sure if everyone is seeing the signal right now. We're going to move forward. Even if some of the channels, it looks like, I know we're on DLive, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, on a couple of pages on Facebook. Please, we welcome you and we want you to be here. Stick with us as the internet overlords decide whether or not they want you to hear this conversation this week. As always, every Sunday at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we go live with you to say hello and to speak with you about the issues that are affecting us all across the world. And we want to hear your voices on Facebook, on Twitter, on DLive. I see Jason's already here with us. Hey, Jason, I'm glad to know that that's going through. I know at least one or two of the channels may be having a problem right now with the internet overlords. But again, this is a conversation where, just like Jason, you too can reach us and speak about what you think is important. And we value that as an expression of free speech. So we look forward to it. And also, you can call into the show at 607-242-1582. Matter of fact, let me make sure that our system is, there it is. Our phone is in, ready, and set for your calls. So let's jump right into it, folks. What are we going to talk about today? There's the gun control issue. There is what's going on with Iran right now. There are problems with our southern border, and it is being amplified in various states, like in New York State, with policies that are asking more and more people to come into the United States. There are a lot of things that are going on. Most of them are not being told to you. They're not being conveyed to you because the government just doesn't want you to know. They want you to be silent and subservient. They want you to ignore your First Amendment rights and all of your rights for that matter. It's kind of scary. Let's get into this. Starting off with, I want to talk about the gun control first of all. Let's talk about Joe Biden. He's come out. He said on Tuesday that he wants to destroy the Second Amendment. He used much nicer language, a much more deceptive language in saying that he wants to help protect you, that he wants to make America safer by doing the same thing that has been done under Democrats and actually Republicans as well, gun control that has been tried over and over again for 40 years, 50 years now, and has yet to ever succeed. It is a policy that is the testament of failure, the testament of the old adage that if you do the same thing over and over and expect a different result, that is insanity. And that's what we're talking about, political insanity. So let me explain what I mean when I say that. Let's take a look at back in the day. You may have heard from back in, I believe this was 2019, in November of 2019, a pregnant woman used an AR-15 to save her family. That's her husband, who was being pistol whipped by two home invaders armed with handguns, and her 11-year-old daughter from possible rape. And she herself was pregnant, 8 months pregnant at the time. You may have heard about this story. What Joe Biden has said on Tuesday, what he has said about banning the AR-15 would have left this family dead. And this is just one example. And this is the problem with gun control in America at this moment. They are targeting opportunities to make you less safe. Women, men, doesn't matter. You're less safe with these gun control policies. But I know everyone likes to point to the Florida story. I like to point to the Florida story to show how this will make women less safe, how this will make families less safe by banning specific firearms, or more importantly, trying to punish legal law-abiding gun owners and not targeting criminals, because these laws don't target criminals. That is the flaw. That's why it has never worked. It has always targeted the 99.994% of legal gun owners in America that have done nothing wrong. So let me look at I'm going off of what President Joe Biden has been speaking about. I want to be very specific because I'm looking at what he was saying to the American people on April 8th, which you can go to C-SPAN and you can see it for yourself. But let's consider this in context. He wants to have a red flag law, which I am an advocate against. I do not agree with this. It violates your Second, your Fourth, your 10th, your 15th Amendment, 13th Amendment rights. What he said is he's going to make it possible for the government to go into your home and to take your property because someone else didn't like you owning a gun. That's it. That this will make you safer. Let's look at the real world example. He's also looking to take away ghost guns. This is what he said. Ghost guns are the problem. We have to take away ghost guns. We have to take away armrests. We have to take away the ability for American citizens to own firearms and allow the government to go into your home and to take it away from you. Here is an example that's from April 3rd, as reported by Yahoo News. Woman opens fire in Memphis Burger King over long drive-through wait times. I want you to think about this for a second. Everything that we have just described that Joe Biden has said, he's going to go after ghost guns. He's going to go after armrests for pistols and firearms, and he's going to take away your due process rights and allow the government to come into your home to take your firearms because someone else didn't like it. How is that going to stop this story in Memphis from April 3rd, 5 days before he came out with his announcement? How is this going to protect you from some crazy person, in this case a woman, who was upset that she was waiting at Burger King for the drive-through to get her food? And she decided to go to her car. She pulls out a gun, a handgun, and then tries to kill some people. How is that going to protect you? How is anything that has been proposed by the Biden administration, that is being proposed by people like Representative Sheila Jackson Lee and even Marco Rubio in the Senate, how is this protecting you? How are they making you safer? Because this crazed individual, and I do believe it's fair to say that if you are upset about waiting for food in a drive-through and you decide the only possible answer to deal with that delay of getting your food is to pull out a gun and to try and shoot at people randomly, that is crazy. And nothing that is being proposed right now is going to make anyone safer. There is not a single American citizen who will be saved because of banning ghost guns. She, as far as we know, didn't use one. And that's not going to make you safer. We don't know about anything. There was no attachment to the handgun as far as we know. So that doesn't make you safer. We don't even know the make and model of the handgun. So that's not it. And by the way, they're not banning handguns. They're not affecting handgun ownership. Therefore, all of the regulations do nothing. Am I misunderstanding this, folks? I know YouTube is up at the moment. Facebook looks to be up. DLive is up. And I can see that we are getting significant banning right now, throttling from the various social engines. So this may be delayed. But please, folks, tell me, am I wrong? Am I missing something here? Is there any way that anything that Joe Biden has suggested as an executive order that is going to make you safer? In this example that I have just provided to you, which is a real world example reported by Yahoo News, happened on April 3rd. Would any of these regulations make you safer? And if they aren't making you safer, why are we doing it? Why are we working on ineffective ideas that have failed for 40, 50 years now? Why are we doing this? Because it doesn't make any sense to me. It doesn't make sense why we are not seeing anyone call this out and say, you're wasting our time, you're wasting our money, and you're giving people a false impression of safety. And at the same time that you're denying and stripping away the Second Amendment, the Fourth Amendment, the Fifth Amendment, the 10th Amendment, the 13th Amendment, they're stripping away your rights. They're stealing your livelihood, your ability to live your life. And like in the case in Florida, as I just showed you, this is going to harm people. This is literally going to cause more people to be killed and to be harmed than not having it. If you think my logic is wrong here, if you think I'm misunderstanding it, please let me know. This is a discussion with you. Maybe I'm missing something here. Mary says, hello, Mary, by the way. Mary says, they will try to get our handguns next. This is just a segue to that. Yes, this is part of that process. The more you strip away the rights, like the Ninth Circuit Court did, and take away the rights saying you don't have a right to protect yourself outside your home. This is a fact. The Ninth Circuit Court has put down a ruling, Young versus Hawaii, and they decided that you do not have a right to protect yourself outside your home, which again goes to this idea. So government's going to take up the space. And what is government saying? Well, you can't have a ghost gun. Well, that's already illegal. And they're also saying that, well, if you have a problem, we're going to send someone to your house and take it away from you. Even if you don't have a problem, even if there is no reason for that. And by the way, you're not going to have a chance to stand in court and to defend yourself. And that stops the woman in the drive-thru of Burger King. How? How does that prevent them from being able to cause you harm? That crazed individual, that criminal who has the intent to harm you, how is this stopping them? How is this protecting you? It doesn't. So why are we doing it? Why are we allowing this to happen? And I can tell you that this is a really bad idea, in my opinion, is because they know they have to do this through executive orders because the people of America will not agree to this. They will not subscribe to this. They disagree because it's obviously and blatantly, I believe, ineffective and destructive. It's authoritarian, literally authoritarian. Now, you may think I'm wrong, and that's okay. You can say, Mike, you're just not getting it. This is really wonderful. It's going to help. Please tell me how that is. In 15 years of doing political commentary, following Second Amendment law and regulations and policy, I have never seen this idea, which is the same idea from the last 40 years. I have never seen it work. It has never made people safer that I can find. I have yet to see the examples where this has helped to protect people's lives. I can show you lots of examples where it would harm people. Especially, it is especially dangerous towards poor people, black people, and people of color, and women. It makes all of those groups much less safe. Oliver, hello, Oliver. I don't think I've seen you on the show before. I'm glad to see you here. And Oliver says, all gun laws are infringements, and I agree. There is a reason why it says, shall not be infringed. It's the only amendment that says, shall not be infringed. It is very explicit in what it is saying and what it believes, that it is absolutely vital for people to have the choice, the freedom to be able to defend themselves. Again, this is not a requirement. It doesn't say everyone must own a gun, although there are towns in America that do require that everyone be armed, and they have the lowest violent crime rate in the nation, and they haven't had a homicide in, I believe it's 20, 30 years now, since they enacted the rule that everyone must be armed. So there are examples here. But again, this is a conversation. This is a discussion. This is free speech in action where you can tell me you think I'm wrong. You can say, hey, Mike, here are the sightings. Here's the definitive proof. And by the way, please cite your sources. Tell me where you're finding it. Tell me how you know this is the case. I understand that's what politicians are saying, the very same politicians who do have police officers and armed escorts and security guards and guards that have firearms. They are very happy to see that you don't get that same kind of protection, that you don't get self-defense, and they get to lord over you like neo-nobles, like the modern day equivalent of the Middle Ages, where they get to have a life that you don't get to have. They have rights you don't get to participate in because they are a different class of person and you are lesser. And they have the power, you don't. And the more that they strip away our ability to defend ourselves, the more you are nothing more than a serf. Just a peasant listening to them tell you what you're going to do. And I believe that is troubling. Dal! Hello, Dal. By the way, Dal met with me yesterday. It was great. We had an opportunity. I was cooking for my birthday, and I was just cooking food and giving it out to the community. And Dal came down with his sons and joined us. It was a great experience. We did some video about that live. It was wonderful. I'm glad to see you. And he says, it won't, as you say, only the law-abiding abide the law, and those that do not follow the law will remain criminals. Those that are law-abiding who do not follow unjust law will be criminals. And that is the problem. It criminalizes being an American citizen, because an American citizen has the right to defend themselves. It is fundamental in our nation. It's the reason why it's the Second Amendment. The first being able to speak what you believe, and the first being that, and the second being the right to defend yourself against those that would silence you, that would harm you, that would, out of madness, kill you. I understand that many of the internet overlords don't like having that conversation. We need to have that conversation. If you want to protect America from criminals, make laws that punish criminals. If you want to make people safer from those with mental illnesses, make laws and fund policies that actually address mental illness. But to say that, well, don't worry, we're going to do a red flag, and that's going to make you safe so that the woman at Burger King isn't affected, and we're going to also, at the same time, ignore the mental illness issue, but we will stop people from committing suicides, even though that is not proven. There is no study that exists that has ever shown that red flags reduce the amount of suicides. It doesn't happen. I've read all the reports that have been made, all the studies that have been made. There is no proof of that. Joe Biden lied to the American people when he said it will do this. There is no evidence of that from anywhere. And I have spoken to the state of Connecticut about this directly, and I've seen the reports and studies on this from Connecticut and Indiana, the first two places to have red flag laws. It has not stopped gun crime. It has not stopped people from dying. It has not stopped suicides. It is a lie. Mary mentions, quote, a well-regulated militia being necessary to secure a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Yes, that is the Second Amendment word for word. It is critical to understand. I know a lot of people maybe disagree with this. Matter of fact, I do want to mention that on, it will be on, oh, come on, it's not even showing up. I will be in New Jersey, I will be speaking to Rutgers University, which is located in New Jersey, as part of the Young Americans for Liberty. They've invited me. I'll be speaking to the students at that university, Rutgers, where I used to go for college, talking to them about the red flag laws in New Jersey, as well as being proposed across the nation that we've seen Joe Biden offer as an excuse for, well, subjugating the people, in my opinion. And it will be live streamed, and I hope that you are all able to see that. I had a video on that, and of course, it's just not showing up, which is very annoying. I want to play a moment of that if I can. It was 1776 when the world changed forever. Innate freedom was celebrated as never seen before. It flourished and grew for more than 2 centuries, and then something changed. Freedom became more corporate and controlled. Dissent was demonized and ridiculed. Some rejected that, stood out from the mass submission. Voices sprang up to defend our inalienable rights, to ensure that we shall not be infringed. On April 13th, One Voice will celebrate 53 years in America by going back to his college and say the unthinkable. Red flag laws are bad. Our Second Amendment is under attack, and if it goes, so does America. Join us as we live stream the return of Michael Vasquez to Rutgers University on April 13th. Well, I hope everyone liked that. Just a quick little video there, just letting you know that you can be there. We will be streaming it on this channel live for you. There is no cost for this. You can watch the show, and then afterwards you can make comments. I will be taking comments directly from the Rutgers University students about their questions about gun control, about red flag laws, just like we're having part of that conversation here. And I want to hear what the youth of America have to say, because I believe this is all being done to affect them. They are being taught over and over again that you don't have certain rights, even though they are in writing. And many of these kids can't read script. They can't read cursive writing. So many of them don't know what is actually in the Constitution, what is actually in the Declaration of Independence, what is in the amendments and the Bill of Rights. So they have to go by what headlines are being put out there, and the headlines are lying to people. It's absolutely terrifying. I don't know. Maybe, am I wrong? Am I missing that? Is it not being clear? Is this why right now I believe that we are being throttled and shadow banned by the internet overlords right now, so that people can't see and hear this properly, to try and deny you the ability to have a conversation and to let our elected leaders know that we disagree with this, that this is not the best way to move forward, that this is a problem, and that we will not give up our rights. They don't want to have that conversation. They don't want you to have that conversation, to be able to speak with them and say, you are elected. That means you serve the public, and you serve the public interest. And it is not in the public interest to pass a executive order, not even a law, to circumvent Congress. And it is not in the public best interest to pass a bunch of laws that actually do nothing to stop crazed people going to a Burger King and shooting at people because they had to wait an extra 30 seconds to get an order of fries. I'm telling you, there is a problem in this nation, and it's not the guns, it's not firearms or legal, lawful gun owners. It is crazed people like that. And I would love to hear from the other side telling me how I am wrong, how I'm misunderstanding that, how you watching this and having a conversation with us are misunderstanding and getting it wrong. Because I don't think we are. I truly do not think we are. And I'm giving you the real world example of how we can test whether or not it's effective. There is nothing that is being offered, nothing that is being suggested. HR 127, HR 8, S292, none of these bills facing Congress would stop what we're seeing from this Memphis Burger King. None of the executive orders being offered by Joe Biden back when he was vice president under President Obama, 23 of them that he passed then, and the ones he's offering now, none of them prevent this. I'll even give you one other great thing to consider about this when we talk about gun control. And we should ask our elected leaders, send them a letter, send them a tweet, send them a comment, and say very simply to them, if these same ideas that you're promoting right now are the same ones that you've been promoting for 40 years, if they were actually effective, if they actually protected people, why do you have to make another law? Why do we have to duplicate it? We already have gun laws. We have 22,000 gun laws in this nation. If those laws stopped criminals, we wouldn't have the gun violence we have today. We are addressing the wrong problem. And I would ask our elected leaders, okay, please explain how this will protect that pregnant mother in denying them an AR-15, in denying them the ability to protect their homes. Tell me how you're going to make them safer. When you want to tell me how you are going to prevent this crazed woman in Memphis at a Burger King from killing people, please explain that to me. Explain how these laws are protecting people, how it will make their lives safer, my life safer. Please explain this to me because it is not clear. There is no direct connection. And if you want to tell me about red flag laws, let's not forget that in Colorado, where there was a mass shooting, and we are sorry to hear that, they already have red flag laws. They've had red flag laws for 2 years, and it didn't stop anyone. It didn't protect anyone. So why are we looking to do this on a national level when we can look at real world examples? It doesn't work. Colorado already has a red flag law. It did not make people safer. Is my logic off? Mary mentions, and I think there's a delay between my comments to you and seeing your responses. I see Mary mentions that she's wishing me the very best going back to Rutgers, and that she can't say she's a little bit about you going, well, it's going to be on Zoom. I prefer to actually go in person to colleges. I've gone to several colleges and had these speeches before. And I've had people protest and be upset. It's part of the process. And you know what? I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid of the progressive leaders of tomorrow, otherwise known as PLOT, the Antifa. I'm not afraid of the Indivisible New York, the Citizens Actions, all these organizations on the far left that use intimidation to try and silence people. I'm not afraid of them. And that's the thing. We have to stand up to them. We have to speak to our elected officials and tell them, you aren't doing things to make our lives better. You have to stop. You're listening to these very loud fanatics, and they're telling you to do things that will not help anyone, that have been proven over time to not help anyone. Why are you doing that? We have to really address this to them. And I'm more than happy to go to every college. I know I've been trying to work out going to John Jay and to be able to speak to students there. The COVID regulations make it a little difficult, but I want to speak to the students at John Jay in Ohio, all over the nation, and we're working on that to let them know what are the consequences of giving up your rights, because you will never get them back. And I think it's a very important discussion. And I hope that, you watching this are feeling the same thing, even as the internet overlords, it seems, are making it more difficult to do, which is, sad. And I'm upset about that. I did want to mention as well that it's not the only problem facing America. And let's look at something that's affecting not only America, but the rest of the world. Because while we're trying to deal with the issue of gun control, while we're being told that we have less and less freedom, freedom is the very thing that is causing millions of people to try and come into America every year, legally and illegally. And we know that the southern border is one of the biggest entry points, although the northern border is just as important and even easier to enter the nation through. This is a fact. I'm not giving away a secret. We all know that. To enter America through the woodlands that are between Canada and America is as simple as just walking through. You wouldn't even know. And that's a problem. And we don't talk about that enough. And we should. But looking at our southern border, we have problems. We know, as Senator Ted Cruz brought up recently on April 8th, there is a spike in illegal aliens in our nation. We have over 172,000 people in the month of March alone who have tried to enter the United States. That's an increase of 70% more people than in the month of February. That is a total between the 2 months. We're talking about 200,000 people have been trying to get, that we know of, have tried to enter the United States. And here's the big thing. The Biden administration has said they can, that they are allowing these people into America when Obama was president and invited the youth to come into our nation, that parents should send their single children to America unattended, which is a crime. And we should call this the crime it is. When 16,000 young children are sent on 1,000-mile long or even longer trips with strangers to go travel through different countries and then to try and cross a desert by themselves, as we've seen recently where a child was found just walking through the desert, left alone to be found by our great officers of the Border Patrol, just lost. How many of those kids die in those deserts, that die in that 1,000-mile trip? How many of them have been taken in and used by sexual abusers, by kidnappers, by criminals of all sorts, the drug gangs that are using them? We need to call this the crime it is. It is child abuse. And that child abuse has been motivated by the fact that we have Biden and many Democrats who are saying, no, it's okay. Those kids, we're going to take care of them. We're going to spend $60 million a day on your unattended child that you sent on a 1,000-mile trip by themselves in the hopes of making it to America. We're going to spend $60 million a day on these children. And then we're going to try and figure out a way to make them citizens. Why wouldn't you send your kid to America for that? Why wouldn't you do that? Now, I'm going to say something that's a little bit controversial here. I know, what a strange thing. But I'm going to say something that's a little controversial because we just heard on Friday, April 9th, that the White House is now considering paying individuals, it's mostly from Central America, to pay them to stay in their own nation. And I would tell you, and I'm going to say, that what we're really doing is not paying people to stay out of America. We're buying their children. I believe that this is going to cause even more illegal immigrants and even more children to be sent unattended by themselves in a form of, as a form of child abuse, to be sending them on 1,000-mile treks to the United States, because we're going to be paying for their kids, which is going to give the parents the ability to send their kids off, maybe to take the entire family and have them move. Because this isn't a reason not to come to America. If America is willing to pay you money and say, well, just don't come to America, you're not signing a contract. You just got free cash. Why wouldn't you want to go to the land of free cash? Does that make sense, folks? I know we're getting limited on all the social media outlets, but please, I want someone to tell me, and maybe it's after the show when you see this, if you couldn't see it live, leave it in the comments. I want to hear this. Do you think I'm right? Does it make sense that if someone has been given a check, free cash, free money, and you know this is the land of milk and honey, that people, they are so wealthy that they can send checks to individuals in other countries? Wait a minute, why wouldn't you want to go to that country? Why isn't that an invitation saying, let me go there too? They're already taking care of 16,000 unattended, more than 16,000 children, putting them up in hotels. Why wouldn't you want your kid to live like that? Why wouldn't you want to go there? Maybe you can get into a hotel too. Wouldn't you want that? To live a better life? Now, I do want to be clear. In the article, as it is described here, that it was Jacobson, I believe her name was, the White House aide, Roberta, yes, that's her name, Roberta Jacobson, who is the author of this idea under the Biden administration, has stated that, you know, when they give this free money out, it's not going to be going to individuals. It's going to be going to the countries. So Guatemala, Honduras, and El Salvador will receive billions of dollars, billions with a B, billions of dollars from the United States government to tell them to say, well, keep your people. Why? Like they have control of all of their people. Just like, you know, if you, like the government right now, you just got a check, $1,400 Did the government tell you how to spend that? And if they did, would you? If they said you could only buy masks with that money, but they gave you the check, said, here's the money, and said, and go out and get a mask. Does that mean you're going to get a mask? Or maybe you're going to feed your family. Maybe you're going to pay your rent. Maybe you're going to buy a new car, or fix your car. Maybe you have priorities. And when we give this money to the countries of Guatemala, Honduras, and El Salvador, do you think that's really going to, countries that we know are corrupt, billions of dollars that we know that these countries are so messed up that their people are leaving in droves for the United States, that they are sending their children in child abuse on 1,000-mile treks on foot to try and get into that country. And we think that if we gave billions of dollars to these corrupt and crumbling countries, that the people, the average person, is going to see any of that money. It's even worse than if we were sending a check directly to each and every individual. It's even worse than if we had sent money to each and every individual. Because if we sent, at least then we know the people would be getting the money. Instead, we're giving it to the governments. Governments that don't know how to run their country as is. And just throwing money at the idea doesn't make it better. Am I misunderstanding something here? Is that not making sense? Just throwing money at people is not going to make their lives better. Especially when you're not even throwing it at the people, you're throwing it at the governments. And we know those governments are bad governments. We know that they don't run their countries well. Throwing money at them is not going to make the average person better. Does this not make sense? What's wrong with the Biden administration? What's wrong with our government right now? What's wrong with progressives? Do they not think of the consequences of what they're doing? Are they not thinking about this? I know Roberta Jacobson thought about it, and that's why her policies that she's enacting for the Biden administration were so bad that she got out. She's been effectively kicked out. She's fallen on her sword for the Biden administration, and she is leaving after less than 100 days in office. Because, I was only planning to be here for 100 days. Are you kidding me? Whoever goes in for just 100 days, you don't get a job for 100 days. You get a job to do the job. She obviously failed. She failed dramatically. The Biden administration has failed dramatically. And we can say that because this is the highest spike in 15 years. 15 years. Yes, Jason. Thank you for the lag test. I can see that. And it'll be interesting to see how much of a lag is going on right there. So I think this is incredible. And I think it's another example that we have an inefficient administration running this nation. We have an inefficient Congress that is running the nation right now. We have progressives who are in positions of power, and they have no idea what they're trying to do. They are just going through and saying, here's a slogan, let's do that because it sounds good. Don't you feel good? Oh, by the way, the consequences of it are absolutely deadly. They are harmful. They are punishing. With the gun control, it's leading to more gun violence and people being harmed. At the same time, we're looking at our immigration policy, which is causing children to die in 1,000-mile treks, in going through our desert, going through various countries, being sold into sex slavers. We have a problem here, and we are causing more people to be harmed than are being helped. And that is terrifying. That's just terrifying. But maybe you think I'm wrong. I want to hear your comments as best as we can. I know it looks like there's difficulties that are coming from the other systems, from the other internet overlords, but I want to hear your thoughts on this. Am I getting it wrong? And please feel free to call in at any point at 607-242-1582. And You can tell me directly. Don't wait for the lag on the internet. Call up and say, Mike, I think you got it wrong. Or, Mike, I think you got it right. Yes, that makes sense, because I think this is really very troubling that we are essentially buying people from Guatemala, from Honduras, from El Salvador. That's what's being proposed by the Biden administration right now. They want to buy children, which is terrifying. And by the way, at the end of the show, if you go to the YouTube description, you will see links to everything that we're speaking about so you can read it for yourself and understand we are not making this up, that these are not new ideas. And here it is right here. And this is from the New York Post, isolating and detailing which countries they are looking to do this for. The fact that there is $60 million. I need to correct myself. I said $60 million a day. It's $60 million a week that are being spent on these unaccounted for, these unaccompanied children. It's terrifying. And if you think that saying we're spending $60 million a week on these unaccompanied children, these children who have suffered one of the worst forms of child abuse that I can think of right now, being thrown out of your country, sent away from your home with a bunch of strangers, going through different countries, different lands, possibly being sold into sex slavery, possibly dying because of drug cartels, struggling through a desert by yourself. If that's not child abuse, I don't know what is. And we're paying for it. We're paying for it when the kid shows up, and we're paying to encourage the parents to send the kids. And if that wasn't enough, well, then there's New York State. And New York State has decided that they're going to spend $2 billion. $2 billion for illegal aliens. I love how they say, the New York Times loves to say, undocumented workers. The document they are missing is any legal authorization to be in the United States. They are illegal aliens. That is a legal definition. It is not racist. It's a legal definition. You enter a country without the right to be there. You are illegally, you've broken the law, and you are illegally in that country. And since you're not born in that country, you're not a native. You are an illegal alien, not an undocumented worker. You are an illegal alien. And New York State is now going to give $2 billion to illegal aliens. It works out to about $15,600 per illegal alien. That's your money. That's your money. And that's money from your pockets and that's anywhere in the nation. Anywhere in the nation, if you've paid taxes, because New York lost $15 billion. They're in the hole. They're losing money because of the bad economic policies of Governor Cuomo, who I can't understand why he's still in office. And because of that, your taxes went to pay and bail out and save New York State. So New York State then decided they're going to spend even more money than they were already losing, money that they don't have, and they're going to spend even more of it, and they're going to give some of that money, your money, money that could help your family, they're going to give it to illegal aliens. Over 200,000 illegal aliens, about 290,000 illegal aliens are expected to get $15,000 apiece. That's 250,000 New York City residents, New York State residents, who are not going to get that money and need it desperately. Ann mentions the border situation is nuts. Under Biden, we are watching our country fall. And we're watching it happen not just in New York State, but across the country. And remember, the Biden administration's plan is first, invite the children into America to entice families to commit one of the worst forms of child abuse we could possibly imagine and send their kids to America, where the Biden administration has now built even more cages to put these kids into, as they're also buying up hotel rooms to put some of these kids into. And then they're distributing these kids and the illegal aliens that they do get control over into different states to spread them out around the nation so that no one has any idea exactly who's here and where they came from. All the while not being concerned about COVID-19, the thing that you and I as citizens are highly restricted on. There was a woman who attacked me on Facebook because I had a barbecue yesterday celebrating my birthday, and I was cooking for the community. And as I mentioned, Dal and a few other people came down. Mike Bowie was there and a few others from the show, as well as the local community. They are all local residents. And people came down to get free food, to just have a meal, to enjoy good weather, and to remind us that we all live in the same community. No other reason, no cost to anyone. And we were told by a person connected to a college in the area saying, well, you weren't social distancing. We were outside. We were more than 6 feet apart, and we weren't, but you weren't wearing masks. How bad a message is that? Can you imagine? This is the message coming from these progressives. Oh my God, it's so terrible. You're celebrating community. You're feeding people, possibly people who are homeless, people who might be hungry. I don't know. I didn't ask. It didn't matter. But we were feeding people for free out of goodwill, and we're being demonized because, oh my God, you know what? You can't do that because you're not wearing a mask. I'm sorry, look at the trees and the forest. It didn't matter. We're feeding people. Shouldn't that be the priority? Shouldn't that be applauded? Shouldn't that be thanked? Isn't that a good thing? But instead, we have people who are saying, you can't do that. You can't do that because you're not following the government. The government didn't authorize that. Because if the government authorized it, everyone would be wearing a mask. Are you kidding me? Maybe you think I'm wrong. Maybe I'll ask you about that. Is it more important to have a barbecue where you're making sure that everyone is wearing a mask and possibly not happening, and people may not be able to get fed because not everyone is standing exactly 6 feet apart while they're outside on a warm spring day? Should they be not denied food because not everyone is exactly measured out 6 feet apart from each other? Is that a reason not to feed people? Is that more important than saying, hey, we're a community, come on down, have some food, get to see your neighbors because you've been locked in a house for a year? Yes, you were told you only had to do this for 2 weeks, and now it's been a year. People are suffering from depression, from isolation, from a lack of jobs, from a lack of income. And you know what? Here's a nice bright moment to make your life a little bit better for a few hours, and instead, we're being told by some, and it's a minority of people, who are saying, well, that's a bad thing. That's an evil thing to do all of that because you're not exactly 6 feet apart and you're not wearing a mask. I don't agree with that. I think that's absolutely insane. I think that's absolutely missing the point. I think that's absolutely more dangerous and more detrimental than the COVID itself. But that's the whole point. It's that we have these individuals like the New York State legislature who are so committed to the progressive ideology, so committed to trying to just do things that sound good, their slogans that are instilling fear and are promoting the destruction of our nation. They're so busy with that, they can't see what is a good thing and what are positive consequences. You know what's a positive consequence of doing a barbecue? That you give away food for free, people get fed. That they're reminded that they're in a community together and that, you know what? Community does things for each other with no cost, no expectation. just because it's a good thing to do. And instead, they're more focused, rather than celebrating something that helps a community, they are much more busy and more concerned with going out and saying, hey, you know what we should do? We should give $2 billion to illegal aliens, people who have broken the law and continue to break the law, and give them money, $15,000, $250,000 of them. Because I guarantee you can find 250,000 people in the United States who need this money. Here's another problem with this stupid idea that the White House is watching and probably will want to enact. This is why they made sure that they could give, the Democrats voted to make sure that illegal aliens, criminals, people who have broken our law can get the COVID relief. That's your money. It's your money. Every time they give it to them, it's less money that can be given to you and that you have to pay off at some point. You're paying for their money too. And so I asked this question, and it's a really good question. And I believe it was Congresswoman Claudia Tenney who may have retweeted this. And she said, how are they getting in this check? How are they going to get this money? 290,000 illegal aliens who are criminals are going to go to the state and say, hi, we are a criminal who is actively breaking the law, who should not be in this country. Please give me $15,000. And we're going to, I mean, how do they show up? Who do we give the check to? We don't know who they are. They don't have, and I guarantee you, here comes the racist part. New York is going to require some kind of ID, which means it's racial profiling, according to people in Georgia. This is racist. But they have no ID. They have no way to prove who they are. They're an illegal alien. And if they show up, we should, at that point, then say, oh, fantastic, here's $15,000. By the way, we're deporting you, because that's what the law requires. So instead, we're saying, hey, we're going to teach you that not every law is important. You don't have to follow every law. And if we're teaching that to the children and to these illegal immigrants, that American laws don't matter, then why do we expect them to follow any law? Why should anyone? If laws are arbitrary and they're left up to your feelings about it, you feel good about stealing, then you should be stealing. That's the message they're saying, because breaking the law isn't that important. In fact, you get paid $15,000 for breaking the law. Going back to the Biden administration idea of paying people and inviting them into the United States, why wouldn't you want to go to a country that's going to pay you money? In Honduras, as an example, they're going to pay your government, and hopefully you directly, they're going to pay you money so that you can make a 1,000-mile trip. When they're going to put you in a hotel, they're going to not care whether or not you have COVID. And if you do, they might even help to give you treatment for it for free. And then they're going to give you a $15,000 check. Why wouldn't you want to be in that nation? No wonder we have an immigration crisis down at our border. We are inviting people and saying, yeah, come on down. We got money for you too. Or am I misunderstanding this? Am I just not getting it? Is this not correct? Have I missed something in the consequences of these actions? I understand they sound like they feel good. They sound like those are good ideas, but these are real world consequences we're talking about. Am I misunderstanding the evidence being presented to us by the New York Times, information that is being confirmed to us by the New York Post, that this is coming from CNBC? Am I somehow not understanding the information that is coming from credible sources? Because it seems our politicians want us to believe that. A couple comments came in. Hot Chicks, hello Hot Chicks, says, someone asked me why I was here. So I told her it was because I am Jewish. Okay. Freedom of religion. Another great reason and great thing guaranteed in America. Everyone should be able to be free to have whatever religious belief you want. Although we're seeing people challenge that. Now, I'm assuming that there is a delay going on right now in the system because I'm getting red flags here, even though my signal on my side is very strong. I am seeing that there is some difficulty at the moment. So I'm assuming that there's a delay in you seeing or hearing what I'm saying. But I do want to hear, does what I've just described about the U.S. international policy, the immigration policy under the Biden administration, does it sound like they are inviting people to come to this country illegally? Or does it sound like they're trying to stop people? Does it sound like people are encouraged to break the law and get rewarded for it? Or does it sound like, no, they're being told they shouldn't be here? Because the Biden administration is telling us, oh, we're telling them not to come. I don't see it. When you're offering money over and over again and telling people that, oh, we're going to take care of you so much better than the nations you're in, that doesn't sound like someone saying, don't come. It sounds like, show up now. Show up before we stop doing this. Why would you want to wait? Get on the gravy train as soon as possible. Because that's what it sounds like the Biden administration's policy is. There is no such thing as a border. Walk on in, show up at your local government office, and they'll have a check for you. Because I guarantee you, that is what the coyotes are doing. And for those who don't know what a coyote is, I'm not talking about the animal. I'm talking about the gangs, the gangs in actually several of the South American nations where they control who crosses the border and takes people through the desert, sometimes leading them astray and leaving them stranded to die of starvation and lack of water, or to throw off children that can't keep up, as we saw recently in our southern border. So, yeah, this is a problem. The coyotes are going to go and tell them, hey, you know what? The United States is such a great place. You're in El Salvador, you're in Guatemala, you're in Honduras, and life is horrible. Guess what? The Americans are paying people. New York, you want to go into America, go to New York, and they will give you $15,000. The New York Times said so. And Joe Biden won't send you back home. He's not going to send you back. And I know you have COVID. It's okay because they won't stop you. They'll even give you free medication. This is what they are being told in these nations. This is the message that is going around throughout South America and around the world. And who wouldn't say, well, I can live in this horrible nation that has no real freedom and has no real opportunity, or I could go to America. Now, there's something to be said about, oh, but we want to fix our own country. Fantastic. I hope they do. But the easier answer is, I'll go to America. And we see they are. When 172,000 people show up on our doorsteps and are being let in, that isn't 172,000 people who were sent away. It's 172,000 people who showed up and were let in. It was, last week's show where we showed you the video from a United States senator showing how people who were coming into America were gathered up and they were sent on their way. They were allowed into the United States. Congresswoman Claudia Tenney was down at our southern border, confirms that illegal aliens, when they show up, are being allowed to go right into our nation, all across the nation, wherever they want to go. And we know at least 108 people have had, that we know of, are confirmed to have had COVID, and they're all over the country right now. Isn't that a terrifying thought? Isn't that something that sounds like an invitation to me? Maybe I'm wrong. And again, if you disagree. This is a conversation. And I know the internet overlords are making it more difficult right now, but this is a conversation. You get to say if you agree, if you disagree, if you think that there's a middle ground in there. I want to hear that, because it's about free speech. It's about the very thing that the internet overlords, being Facebook, Twitter, Google, YouTube, they don't want you to have these conversations. Amazon, they want to silence you. I want you to speak. And the more of us that are able to speak, the less they feel like they can get away with anything. Because I think they really think they can get away with anything right now. I truly believe, looking at the policies that they're putting in place, they seem to think that they can do whatever they want and suffer no consequences because they are in charge, and we don't have a voice. We just have to do what they say. Speaking of New York, which gave away $2 billion. By the way, did your local legislator ask you if they could give $15,000 to illegal aliens instead of giving it to you or your neighbor or someone that you know who is homeless in your community in New York State? Did any one of your legislators, the state legislator, state senator, the state assembly, did they ask you? Did they say, hey, I'm considering giving $15,000 to criminals who are breaking the law actively, and we're going to pay them instead of giving you or your local business any more money? No, we're going to spend, and by the way, you're going to pay for this in taxes. Your taxes are going up, and you're going to pay for this, for us to give this money to an illegal alien, a criminal. Did they ask you even once? I'll even go further. How about in California? How about in Michigan? Governor Newsom, Governor Whitmer. How about Wolf and Governor Wolf and all the Democratic governors? Did anyone ask you? I know Cuomo didn't ask anyone anything because Cuomo's trying to duck from the fact that he has 9 sexual assault allegations on top of proven corruption, on top of 16,000 people that he unnecessarily killed. That is a fact. We know these things exist as a fact. I have not, for a party that's so crazy about Me Too and so crazy about trying to silence people and to do the right thing and do things that are morally good and feel good, according to Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. It's amazing that the same group of people are more than happy to have a man, Governor Cuomo, Andrew Cuomo, who has violated everything that they stand for. He is corrupt. He has, and we know that because it's been proven. He will lie to the public. We know that because he's done it. It's been proven. We know that he's caused 16,000 people to die unnecessarily. That's been proven. These are not questions. There are allegations, 9 allegations of sexual misconduct, where we have seen, I don't know how many people be completely crucified by the news media just for the fact that they even were accused once. This man has 9. And he will not resign. And it appears that he's going to be running for re-election, and the Democrats are perfectly fine with that. My local Democratic elected officials, they seem to have no problem with this. I have yet to hear from Broome County Executive Jason Garnar, who I know personally. I have yet to hear him publicly come out and say, you know what, we need to remove Governor Cuomo because of 16,000 people dying unnecessarily, because of corruption and lying to the public, because of 9 sexual assaults. I have yet to hear him say anything like that. I have yet to hear Assemblywoman Donald Lepardo, the 4th most powerful person in the New York State Assembly, has yet to say something about the 16,000 people that were unnecessarily killed, and has not said anything about the corruption that has been proven and quoted by multiple news media sources, and only hesitantly said, oh, you know what, we need to take away his executive powers, his exclusive powers that made him an emperor to pass anything that he wants, we need to rescind that after he got accused of 6 sexual misconduct allegations. And she hesitantly joined in on that. There's 3 more that have happened. And by the way, he still has executive power because he is still messing around with the number of hours that a business may or may not be open, all by himself, arbitrarily. That's terrifying to me. That's scary. And this is the example. New York is the example, along with California, for the rest of the progressive movement. What happens here eventually happens in every other state. And it's from these centers here, New York, California, where we see people exporting the ideas over into England. Like the BLM movement is purely an American problem that we have now exported to England. The United Kingdom now has a problem with BLM because America has a problem with BLM. That's terrifying. That the thing that we are exporting problems to the rest of the world, and they're getting worse here. And we have elected officials that won't even comment on proven facts, that won't even denounce proven failures. What is going on, folks? And I know that's why we're seeing the internet being held back from our conversation, our expression of free speech. And I know Mike Bowie, by the way, I did see your comment. Mike, it's good to see you. He was also one of the guests that we had, one of the individuals who came down for the cookout and had a great time, and I know he had a great time too. Mary mentions it's absolutely absurd to be ridiculed for feeding people outside on a beautiful spring day. These people, oppressive people, are truly the problem, but I blame Cuomo and higher government for they are pitting citizens against each other and wanting to cause division, because unified we will bring changes that they don't want. So it looks like everyone's about 5 to 10 minutes behind me in what I'm speaking about right now and what everyone's able to comment on. Let me take a moment to allow the systems to catch up so people can see what I was just talking about with New York giving away billions, the White House paying for children to come to America, the child abuse that is being encouraged by the United States government, which should scare every government in the world that their children, potentially from everywhere in the world, whether it's the United Kingdom, whether it's Mexico, Canada, whether you're in North Korea, whether you're in, I don't know, France or in the Congo. We have people from around the world who are sending their kids by themselves because of this encouragement, and it should be denounced. It is child abuse, and nations need to protect their own children by not feeding into this encouragement that Joe Biden is promoting out there. My personal opinion. If you think I'm wrong, I'd love to hear it. But let me take a moment as I let the system catch up so people can catch up to what I've already said. When I say that there is shadow banning, when I say there is censorship, that's an example of what I'm talking about. Because this is live, because this is a live communication with you, the public, they are making it difficult for people to find this video. As I've been told by some of the audience and viewers, they make it hard to find this. And then when you do get to find it, if you can find it, they also are making it so that there's a delay that is artificial, so that you can't do anything real time, so that you get frustrated because you're not catching up, because they're putting in delays artificially so that you can't be interactive, as this program normally has been, depending on the subject matter. And because of that, they want you to go away frustrated, so that you can't have a conversation, so that you can't find out what they're not trying to tell, what they're trying not to tell you, that they are trying to suppress. They don't want you to think of what's happening at our southern border as an act of child abuse. They want you to think of it as, well, it's compassionate. Having open borders is a good thing. Don't consider any of the consequences, like the spread of COVID, like the child abuse, like the sex slavery that is going on, the sexual abuse of women along that 1,000-mile trek through through several countries, grouped up with individuals that no one knows about, that never gets reported. They don't want you to consider the people who are dying along the way that never get mentioned. They don't want you to think about the fact that your taxes, which are going up, are going to be paying for this instead of paying for people in your community. No, what they want to do is they want to slow down this feed. They want to interrupt this feed. They want to make it hard for you to find this live stream so that you can't have that conversation and make that realization. Not in real time. No, they don't want you to do that in real time. They don't want more people to have this conversation. And potentially they could even have people who disagree be part of this conversation, but they don't trust that once someone is actually asked to think about the consequences, that they are going to get the right answer, or rather the answer that people like the Democratic Socialists of America, people like Progressive Leaders of Tomorrow, otherwise known as PLOT, people like Antifa, Indivisible New York, and the progressive movement and the socialist movement, they don't think you're going to get the right answer that those groups approve of. So therefore, you don't get to have that conversation, which should make people upset. That should terrify people. Maybe I'm wrong, but I take it as the fact is, the more that they abuse this channel, the more they attack us, the more they make it difficult for you to hear us either live or to hear what we're saying after the fact, is they're doing that on purpose because we're effective, because it's effective to have American citizens and people around the world to have a conversation with us. I can only imagine if they are making this difficult for people in the United States from across the country and even my local region, if they're making it difficult for them to hear about this, can you imagine what they're doing to people in other parts of the world? And I know this show is watched by people in India. I know it's been seen by people in the United Kingdom, in Canada, in Mexico, all through South America. I know that this is being seen in Uruguay and Paraguay, down in Chile. I know it's being seen. I've had conversations. I can see where people are, I can see the feed and see where some of the countries that this is going to. And they don't want you to have these conversations in these other countries. They don't want you to think about this. They don't want you to say, you know what? It isn't effective to punish law-abiding gun owners and to take away their freedoms and give nothing back in return. It's not reasonable or effective to tax people more and more money as they have fewer and fewer jobs because the jobs don't exist anymore. And we're going to charge them more money. We're going to take more money from them in taxes. We're going to inflate the dollar and make your money worthless by just printing out money endlessly so that we can pay these people from other countries and hurt you. That's not an effective policy. And promoting child abuse is not a good consequence. It's a horrible idea, and they don't want you to think about that. You have never heard anyone in the news media say, hey, this is child abuse, sending unaccompanied minors to our border. This is child abuse. Stop it. That we are so angry about that child abuse that we're going to shut our border down. You don't hear anyone say that. You don't hear that in the major mainstream media. They're not going to say that to you because they want that to happen. Which should make you then ask, if they're not willing to say that this is child abuse and that it should not happen, and if they're willing to pay people to let that happen, and they are, As I just explained, that's what the White House wants to do. That's what New York State is doing. And it's what California has done. They did a $500 single time payment to illegal aliens. So if California is doing it and New York is doing it, how long before all the rest of the progressive states are going to do it? I tell you now, they don't want you to think about these consequences because they are busy trying to do what they want, which is control you. And if you think I'm wrong, if you think I misunderstand, I'd like to hear why. And as I said, our phone lines are open. It's 607-242-1582. You can call in. You are welcome to voice your opinion. Tell me where you think I'm wrong, if you think I'm wrong. And tell me where you think I'm right, if you think I'm right. Sorry, I got a feedback hum somewhere. There it is. It was on the microphone. It's absolutely aggravating, folks. And I'm getting a text from someone. I'm not sure where it is. But I want you to be involved in this, folks. I want you to... What? Scam. Okay, I got some kind of spam. Sorry, I'm getting spam mailed. I thought it was someone talking about some of the news that we're talking about here, but it appears not to be. That's fine. So, folks, you are able to speak on this and to give your feedback because the best way to express and celebrate our First Amendment is to act. Use that First Amendment to be able to have that conversation and introduce it to people all around the world, like our friend Agent Black over in the United Kingdom and so many other places in Canada and all around the world. We help them by having free and open discussions about whatever we're thinking. And no one is blocked by me or this channel from us from allowing anyone to speak. But matter of fact, speaking about that, and I did want to also address something else. Speaking about open and free conversation and just hearing people's voices and learning different things, I did want to mention statements of opinion. This is a podcast. It's only audio. And this is a podcast that is being put on. It's brand new, started on April 6th. You may have heard me mention it before. I want to mention it again. This is being done by my sister, Francine. She is the author of the program, and I hope you take an opportunity to listen to what she has to say, some of the things she's talking about. And you will also find out very quickly that my sister is very different than me. She is not a conservative Republican. And she doesn't share exactly the same views I do. But she is very passionate about what she believes in, and she has a very interesting take on a lot of things. Not so much on politics, but just life in general. And I do recommend, if you haven't heard the program, check it out. And again, that program is by Francine Vasquez, and it is the Statements of Opinion. Please do check out the podcast. It's available on pretty much all the podcast formats like iTunes and such. So I did want to just mention that because I love my sister and I want her to do great. And I hope she gets more people than I do. I hope she becomes a multimillionaire for it. Because I love my sister. Even when I disagree with her. That being said, and we've been talking a little bit about vaccines. And we've been talking a little bit about the absurdity of some of the rules that have been exported from the United States to other countries. And it is absurd. It is insane. It is so insane. Can you imagine that there are people who say that COVID, that we need to treat people by like different classes of citizens. There are those who are vaccinated and those who are not. And the people who are not vaccinated, it's more than just, oh, you can't go to a community cookout, to a barbecue. No. They're not even, if you're not vaccinated, you're not worth being saved from a natural disaster. That sounds crazy, doesn't it? It sounds incredible that someone would say, oh, you didn't get the COVID vaccine, you're going to die. We're going to let you die from a natural disaster. And that is exactly what is happening for thousands of people, tens of thousands of people right now. You don't believe me? Here's the proof. This is from the Epoch Times, talking a little bit about it, that only vaccinated people are allowed to leave St. Vincent. There's another one, and this is from the Daily Mail, talking about the same thing. From St. Vincent, it's in the Caribbean. It's an island in the Caribbean. This is as of today, April 11th. This is not some kind of a suggestion. This isn't someone's theory. This isn't an idea. This is actually happening right now. That if you did not get the COVID vaccine, then they are willing to allow you to die because of the volcano that is exploding on St. Vincent right now. 16,000 people are being evacuated from their homes, and they're being taken, because they're an island, they're being taken by cruise ships to other islands and other locations to save their lives. And if you are not vaccinated, you're not part of that group. By the way, that's the child I was talking about who was left at the border by himself. That was just in there, but here it is. Here it is. It was a tweet that was sent out. This was, the Prime Minister, the St. Vincent Prime Minister, Ralph Gonsalves, who says that, and he confirmed that only those who have been vaccinated against coronavirus could be allowed to board cruise ships, which had volunteered to evacuate students. Can you imagine that? Because that's how we go from where people are saying you can't have a barbecue to, oh, you won't be saved from a volcano. They are willing to kill people, to allow people to die because they want to push this message that you must be vaccinated. You want to talk about promoting fear. That is insane. That they would say your life is not worthy. But isn't that what progressives do? There are categories of people. You are no longer an individual. Every life is not the same. Not everyone is as worthwhile. And as an example, the Prime Minister Gonsalves is saying, if you have COVID, if you don't have a COVID vaccination, then you don't get to get saved. You are not the priority of the government. And that's very much like what we're seeing happening even locally. How far is it from, there is no volcano in the southern tier of New York, in Broome County. But if there were, with the same people who are saying, oh my God, you're not socially distanced, you're not wearing masks at a barbecue cookout outdoors, that's scary, and just open, the same people who are saying you can't do that, would they be, oh, there's a natural disaster going on, you don't get saved because of their fear of COVID? You think it sounds crazy, but it's happening. And they're getting these ideas from our government. It's the United States government that's pushing out these ideas to the public. I find that to be not just terrifying, I find that to be troubling and dangerous. Maybe you don't agree. Maybe you think it's perfectly okay. Maybe you think it's the right thing to say that, well, some people who haven't gotten a vaccine don't deserve to be saved from a volcano. Maybe that's something you believe in. Maybe if you believe that, you probably also believe that it's not child abuse to send a kid 1,000 miles by themselves, along with a bunch of sex slavers and drug gangs, into a desert. I would tend to believe, if you believe the one, you believe the other. And that's terrifying, to have a government that believes that child abuse is okay as long as it serves a political goal, and it is okay to allow some people to die because they didn't listen to the government. That is authoritarianism on a scale I cannot imagine. It should not be something that we should have a conversation about. It should not be possible to have that conversation because it's so terrifying. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think I am. And I know most people are, and the news is coming out today. We were just looking at that just before the show started, and I have to say, it's incredible to me. It terrifies me. When I was looking at that story, and I was also looking at the story also in reference to the gun control, not Maryland, sorry. It was another story where there's news today of a woman that killed 3 children, stabbed them to death. Again, a crime that Biden's gun control, talking about ghost guns and red flag laws, doesn't stop the crazy people. Stop them at all. It's terrifying. But these are things that I want to hear from you. I want to hear your thoughts. I want to hear what you think about that. Tell me, do you think I'm wrong? Am I misunderstanding the evidence that is out there, the information and the conclusions? What are the consequences of these various things? What is the consequence of deciding that some people get to live and some people can't from a natural disaster because of a COVID vaccination? Is it really that important to have a COVID vaccination? Because I don't think it is. I don't think that's worth allowing people to suffer from a natural disaster because of that. I really don't think so. But I could be wrong. Maybe you think it's okay and worthwhile to pay people who are criminals, who are broken the law, to pay them $15,000 while your neighbor and your neighborhood business are unable to continue to live, that they lose their jobs, they lost their business, they are stuck in their homes, suffering from depression because of this. And we do know depression is a serious thing because of COVID, and suicides are there. Please remember, if you have any thoughts like that, go to 800-279-8255. That's the suicide hotline, national suicide hotline. There is the domestic abuse line, 800-799-7233. If you are considering suicide or if you're a victim of domestic abuse, please use those phone numbers. That's why we have them at the beginning of every show. But I'm troubled by these things, and it gets worse and worse. But let me take a moment for some levity, or, well, at least lighter news that is not as life-threatening. Remember David Hogg? Because we've been talking about Second Amendment for a little bit. Oh, I love this microphone. The next piece of equipment I got to get. So there is a gentleman, David Hogg. Some people may remember him. He was a activist as a child against Second Amendment. And he decided that he's going to trade his activism, his ability to get sympathy, because he was a survivor of what happened at a shooting down in Florida. As a mass shooting survivor, off of the tragedy, he decided that he was going to create a business called Good Pillow. Well, it seems that David Hogg, who wanted to be the next Mike Lindell and owning a really great progressive business, well, he decided, as was mentioned by Vince Langman, he has instead become Solyndra. That's because David Hogg didn't have what it takes to be a businessman, to be an entrepreneur. David Hogg quit Good Pillow. He's given up on his progressive business dream. He has failed. And it's kind of funny because every time we see progressives, they say, well, you don't understand. We have the best outlook. The socialist communist way of life is great, and we're going to show you. And every time that they have competed on an equal playing field with others, they have always lost. Always. They fail. This is just another example of it. That they fail when they compete with businesses, not because someone's trying to stop them. No one has stopped them. No one has said you can't do this. They just walk away because it's hard work, it's not easy, and they're not good at it. And their progressive policies don't actually work in the real world. It doesn't help. That's why the progressive competition being put out by David Hogg, because you can't stand on the bodies of victims of a shooting and say, buy my pillow. It doesn't work. You actually have to be a businessman, and you have to have something for people to buy. You have to have something, a reason for people to buy it. And to say, well, I'm a socialist, reason. To say that I survived a mass shooting isn't a reason. You have to have a business reason. You want me to buy a pillow? I'm not buying the pillow because of your politics. I'm buying a pillow because I want to sleep well at night. And obviously, good pillow by the progressives, it isn't a good company. That's what I would take from that. That's something that I take whenever I watch progressives try and compete with real businesses. They always fail. It tells you something about their philosophy and how it works in the real world. It always fails, just like the socialist countries always fail. Russia failed. North Korea, Venezuela, Cuba, name your socialist country, it always fails. Sometimes quickly, like in Venezuela, sometimes longer, like in Russia. They all will fail. It's just a matter of when. And how many lives does it cost to do that? China killed over 100 million people. Russia killed over 100 million people. Venezuela killed over 5,000 people that we can confirm. There are thousands upon tens of thousands of people who have died in North Korea. The news doesn't like to tell you that when they talk about socialism. You don't hear that from the professors at colleges talking about socialism. They want to avoid that. They're telling you it's a great thing and it's so wonderful. They forget to mention that it's only really wonderful for the leadership and the people that don't get killed. And lots of people get killed. Millions upon millions of people have been killed in the name of socialism, more than any war has ever caused. But they don't like to talk about that. Every time they have a business, like Solyndra, the Green New Deal, all these socialist ideas always fail when it comes down to actually competing in a real market. They don't work. But that's why you get countries, you get these leaders that force people to do things. That's why forcing the New York State resident, to spend $2 billion on illegal aliens, a violation of the law. And why it was in California, where California forced its citizens to spend $75 million on illegal aliens. You didn't have a choice on that. These are the socialists pushing and making you do this because they assume they have more power than you do. Even though in the United States, the people are the power. And if you speak up and let people know, then they can't just do anything. At least that's the theory. Wow, they are really hitting this channel hard today in terms of trying to get this out to the public. Kind of sad. But that doesn't stop us. We will continue. And if you don't see this live, please check it out afterwards when it's not live, but watch the playback and see the video for yourself. Because we appreciate that. And that's how free speech grows. You know, it's not a surprise to me when I think about this. When I listen to what's happening in New York, when I see what California has done, when I see what the Biden administration is doing right now, it's not a surprise that when you look at the polling, as this poll is from the U.S. Politics it's about a YouGov poll on U.S. politics. And when people are asked, do you trust the federal government tax revenue effectively? 67% of people say no. They do not believe the government spends money effectively. You know what? I'm not surprised when you see them spending $2 billion on illegal aliens. It's not realistic. Watch them in business after business and watch it fail. When we watch as they put in ineffective laws that will people against real world problems and only look to endanger the average American citizen, we don't trust the government when they're going out there and they are making our lives more difficult, more problematic, and less beneficial. Yeah, I'm not surprised that people are saying they don't trust the government. Marvin McKinney says, this is an awesome show. Thank you for joining us, Marvin. I'm glad that you're enjoying the show. We try our very best to try and make it good. Dow mentions that working outside on the chicken fence, so missed a bit. I have to rewatch it a bit later. That's okay. And that's perfectly fine. We understand that. Individuals need to recapture the right to be responsible for their own safety and staunchly defend the Second Amendment and all the amendments, the First Amendment as well. I think those are the two that most obviously people notice, because you know when you're being repressed, when someone's not allowing you to speak. And there was a poll not long ago where I believe 70% of the nation feels like they can't speak, that they can't say anything because the progressives will punish them. The government will punish them. Their job will punish them for saying, hey, I have an opinion. I have an idea. And in America, everyone's idea, everyone's voice is worth hearing, not required, but worth hearing. And that's something that you don't see promoted right now. That's not something that people are talking about right now. Okay, we've gone an hour and a half. I do want to talk about something else I think is important besides Andy that's happening over in St. Vincent, where non-COVID vaccine can die to a volcano. That is troubling. And that's the same thing as what we're seeing here in the United States, minus the natural disaster. And God forbid we have a natural disaster. Watch out for those same crazy COVID people who are leaders like Andrew Cuomo, like Governor Newsom, like Governor Whitmer, who said in the middle of the worst part of the COVID, when everything was locked down, people in Michigan could not vegetable seeds, plants, food. You buy seed to grow your own food, even though you were trapped in your house every day. And that turned places like Walmart into super spreader zones, which is a reality. If that's the only thing that's open and everyone has to go there to get food and you're not allowed to grow your own food, then guess that's a super spreader location because everyone's there. Sick people, not sick people, everyone's in the same place. You're breathing the same recycled air, touching the same products because you don't have a choice. And that's what Governor Whitmer did to the people in Michigan. And that means that she was more than happy to not to allow people to die. We know she's willing to do that because she followed the example of Cuomo in New York and in Michigan. At least 4,000 people are believed to have unnecessarily, just like happened in New York. And Governor Whitmer, just like with Andrew Cuomo, is still actively hiding the numbers of how many people died. She will not tell the public. So very loud, the script from Governor Cuomo down to the line, including the corruption of hiding the truth from the public. That is very likely. And we've reported on this for months. So you can go back and those. We've been talking about this for a long time. That reminds me of something else that we've been talking about for a long time. The Iran nuclear deal, which just like when Joe Biden has told us, don't worry, you're going to be safer with less freedom. That you don't get to have the Second Amendment will make you safer, which makes no logical sense and has no proof in any data. There is no data that exists. I've been looking at it for 15 years. I have never seen the data that shows us, oh, more gun control gives us safer people on a nation. It doesn't happen. If it did, Chicago wouldn't exist. They have every gun control law you can think of. Colorado wouldn't have had the mass shooting. They already have the red flag laws. They already have gun control. It's not the reason. It's not the thing that fixes that because that's not the root problem. It's not firearms. It's crazy people and people with a criminal intent. We need to target those things. Maybe more mental awareness, mental illness awareness. But let's talk about Iran, because Iran is a big problem. Iran, as we know, is uniformly identified around the world as the leader for global terror. And it seems that for once, Iran has been the victim of global terror, or so they say. That's what they're saying to the world right now. Now, to give you some understanding, the day after my birthday, April 7th, this week, Wednesday, the United States said that they want to lift the sanctions on that Iran would, quote, making nuclear weapons. We paid them, kind of like the way that Biden wants to pay Guatemala for not sending people to the United States illegally. Now, for that, so we gave them the hundreds of billions of dollars up front. We did this in the Obama administration with Joe Biden working very deeply and closely with then Secretary John Kerry to get this deal. And Iran, of course, said, sure, we won't make nuclear weapons. Give us billions of dollars. And when asked, they said, we're going to use it to promote global terror. When John Kerry was asked about the deal and said, wait a minute, we're giving hundreds of billions of dollars to the leader of global terror in the world, then Secretary John Kerry said, yes, and they may use this money to create more global terror. But they promised not to make nuclear weapons. Now, if that doesn't sound illogical to you, you probably disagree with everything I've talked about in the show, and please do leave me a comment. Explain to me why we should trust the leader of global terror in the world, why we would think that they would, one, not make nuclear weapons, even though they believe they need them to kill everyone who doesn't believe what they believe, and tell me why we should trust their word ever. They're the leaders of global terror. But that being said, we did that. And then we had the Trump administration that said, that really doesn't make any sense. We really don't trust Iran. Iran is still the global leader of terror, and it's been funded by the United States. Instead of doing that, how about we hit them with sanctions so that that money's frozen so they can't spend it, so they have a harder time spreading global terror. Then came the Biden administration. And the Biden administration is saying, no, we want that deal because we still trust Iran, even as Iran is saying, maybe we won't make any nuclear missiles, but give us all our money. Let us go and spread global terror. And the Biden administration on April 7th is saying, hey, we can probably work out a deal with that, but we're not going to let you get all the money right now, which is terrifying. And because of that, there's a little bit of a back and forth. They're having a bit of an argument with Iran. Iran is saying, no, you're going to free up all of our money. You're going to let us get all of our money, get rid of all the sanctions. We'll get all of our money, and we're going to go out there and that's it. And they said this on Friday. The Biden administration saying, well, come on. We don't have to give you all the money right now. That's the conversation. By the way, I'm just whittling down and making it a little more clear. But if you think I'm misunderstanding part of the argument, here it is. And I quote, all Trump sanctions were anti-Iran nuclear deal and must be removed without distinction between arbitrary designations from the Iranian Foreign Minister Javad Zarif. In other words, no matter what we did wrong, no matter what we've done with global terror around the world, free up our money so we can do more of it, or we won't sign your deal. We won't do the deal. And the United States is saying, well, how about we'll just lift the sanctions that are inconsistent with the Iran nuclear deal? And all the other ones, well, they'll stay in place. And Iran's like, no, You're going to do this or else. And the rest of the world is following the lead. And they say, no, it's very important. We're going to do this. America has to bend to Iran. The rest of the world, we're talking about China, France, Germany, Russia, all want America to do it. Because they don't like America either. So where's that bring us? And so I'm trying to give you the honest answer here. And again, this is coming from Reuters. This happened on Wednesday, on Friday. Here we are today on Sunday. And it seems that somebody, no one knows for sure yet, but someone decided to give Iran a little taste of what it is to be terrorized like they terrorize other nations around the world. And what happened is that one of the nuclear sites where they are creating the nuclear material to make a bomb was blacked out. They got cyber attacked. They got cyber hacked. They were hacked, which they call nuclear terrorism. They were hacked. Did anyone use a nuclear weapon on them? No. They were stopped from being able to make more nuclear weapons or weapons grade material. And they called that, that's terrorism. You stopped us from being able to make bombs that we can then send around the world and kill everyone we don't like. Oh, that's terrorism. I don't know that I would define it as terrorism. I don't think Israel defines it as terrorism. And a lot of people think Israel did it. And if Israel did do it, I personally would say, congratulations, Israel, you did a great job. Thank you. It doesn't seem that the Biden administration is saying that. It doesn't seem like anyone else in the world is saying that. But the problem is, we could see the Biden administration, who is busy trying to negotiate and say, well, please, just agree. Take some of the money. This is the problem. Israel, which lives right next to Iran, watches Iran spread its global terror, knows and has seen what happens when the United States lifts its sanctions, gives billions of dollars to the world leader in global terror, and watches. Israel has seen how many people die because of that, and they are trying to do something because they realize that this is, again, an ineffective policy. The Biden administration is filled with ineffective policies that are harming more people than you can imagine all over the world. Because Iran is global terror. They are responsible for suicide bombings in France. They're responsible for knife attacks in London. They're responsible for knife attacks and beheadings in the United States. These are global events. They are affecting everyone. They're helping to fund the fighting in the Yemen and in Saudi Arabia. This is a problem. And the Biden administration is trying to give them more money to do more of that. I mean, maybe I'm misunderstanding it. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I don't get it. I mean, does that make sense to you? Because I know the politicians aren't asking you. You're not hearing the Democratic Party ask you, should we give billions of dollars to Iran, who is responsible for global terror, suicide bombings all across the world, for murders in the United States? Should we give them more money so that they can do more of that? No one has ever asked you that. And I'm putting the question in front of you saying, do you think that's a good idea? Because I don't. I've never thought that it is a smart idea to give billions of dollars and lift sanctions and leave Iran unfettered so that they can go and try and figure out a way to kill more American citizens as well as those of Britain and France and around the world. I don't think that's a smart thing. I think that's absolutely stupid. It is antithetical to a society being better. It doesn't make anyone safer. You may disagree. And if you do, I do want to see your text. I want to see the comments after the show because I know people are having trouble seeing the show. I want to hear, if you want, you can call in to 607-242-1582. But I find it to be a big problem. And again, I'm going by the news. This is coming from U.S. News. This is coming from Reuters. This is the major mainstream media. They're not advertising it. They're not talking about it front and center on CNN. They are certainly not wording it this way. No. What they're saying is, oh, the poor Iranians, some mean people shut down their power. That's so evil. Why would someone do that? Because the power plant that they shut down is building nuclear weapon materials. Want to talk about mass destruction? That's it. And they're telling you, oh, we need the nuclear deal because Iran, who's never been trusted to keep their word, that has never kept its word in the past, we need to give them billions of dollars so that they will keep their word. Something they've never done before. Because they promise that they won't kill everyone that they disagree with if we give them billions of dollars and the ability to kill more people. I don't know. Maybe is logic no longer taught in schools? Because I think this is very logical to understand. They're not here to do the right thing. I keep getting messages. I don't know. If anyone's sending messages, I'm not getting them. So just so you know, please do type in the show if you can. I know Facebook and Twitter and DLive, they're having problems right now. Please try your best. Because I want to hear what you have to say. Because if I'm getting this wrong, if I'm misunderstanding this, I want to understand it because I want a world that's more peaceful. I want a world that has less nuclear threats. I want to see a world that has less terrorism. But I don't think Iran having nuclear weapons is making the world more peaceful. Nor do I think Iran having billions upon billions of dollars and no sanctions to stop them will make the world more peaceful. In fact, we have seen that it doesn't. It does the exact opposite, that they have more fighting, that they incite more fighting around the world, like in Yemen, like in Saudi Arabia, more mass suicides and suicide bombings, like in France, that they cause more problems, the more money and the less sanctions that they have against them. Because at the end of the day, they just want you dead. Because they believe that if you don't agree with them, you need to die. That's what Iran says. And I'm talking about the government Iran, not the people of Iran, in case some progressive do-gooder says, oh my God, Mike's talking about that. No, I'm talking about governments here. I haven't mentioned any people. I talk about governments. Just to be clear. I don't know. But am I getting it wrong? Am I misunderstanding? Is that not clear? I don't know. Because it seems to be unclear for the Biden administration, an administration that, as I have shown you, is absolutely screwing up everything. They have got everything wrong. And I know people are more than happy to say, no, Mike, but but at least he's not writing mean tweets. But he is lying to the American people, to your face. I don't know that he knows he's doing it because I don't know if he knows what he's saying. But he's lying to the American people actively. He lied about red flag laws, about gun control, about the problem with ghost guns. Ghost guns aren't the problem in America. Even if you were trying to say that ghost guns cause the problems, they don't. According to FBI data from itself, there were 216, I believe it was 216 or 296 ghost guns recovered by the ATF in 2019. 200, we're talking about 300. 300 ghost guns in a nation with 393 million guns. And guess what? the crimes of the criminals way outweighs that. Ghost guns aren't the problem. Red flags aren't the solution. The answer is we need to do something about mentally unstable and to punish criminals for committing crimes. That's where we need to focus. I mean, if you think I'm wrong, let me know. But the evidence, as I'm showing it to you, and as I will be going over with the students at Rutgers University on Tuesday at 9 p.m., that will be live streamed, that also, I'm going to provide you guys all the information so that you can make your decision. And I'm showing it to you right now in real time, and I'm telling you, it doesn't make sense. I just don't see it making sense. And because of that, that's why, I mean, normally on any given show, when we do this live stream every Sunday at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, talking to people around the world, we normally have at least a couple of comments from people over in Great Britain. We normally have over 100 comments from people watching the show every week. And I can tell you that over the last 3 weeks, we have watched as we have increased our technology to make sure that you can see this show clearly without any problems from our side. We have watched fewer people being able to make comments. We have seen our comments cut in half. That's not on our side. That's coming from the internet overlords. We have watched there being more interruptions and delays in the signal of this live stream, not from us. That's coming from the internet overlords. Something is happening here. They want you to be silenced. They don't want you to have free speech and to talk with us and have a conversation. I think they're afraid. They're afraid of Americans thinking. They're afraid of people around the world hearing Americans think and then saying, oh my God, you know what? My government needs that too. I think they're terrified of this. Maybe I'm wrong. But I think they're going to these extremes because they are afraid. They are very afraid. They don't want you to think about the consequences of everything they are doing, because everything they are doing serves their progressive ideology, their socialist ideology, the far left ideology. Again, I'm not saying Democrats, I'm saying progressives and socialists and their ideology. They are the ones who are in control of our presidency right now, in charge of our Congress, in charge of our Senate. And it is this messaging that is affecting the lives of people across the world, whether it's Israel, the United Kingdom, France. It's having repercussions everywhere in the world. South America. This stuff's affecting hundreds of thousands, if not millions of lives. All of them negatively. And that's not counting the people's lives being affected here in the United States as well. I think it's terrifying. I don't know. Now, I've been on for about 2 hours. So our regular show, sharing our thoughts. And I think this has been restricted. If I'm reading the data correctly, we're being restricted in a couple of countries. We're being definitely throttled here in the United States. And people are having trouble being able to see the show. Not from our system, but from around the world. And at least one system has gone completely offline. Oh, it just popped back. We're never going to stop. We're going to support and maintain free speech for everyone. Now, we know there's a delay, a lag that seems